First contact. The Khetari vessel Iserith hovered above Earth like a blade of silver light. It was neither threatening nor welcoming, merely present, immense, and perfect. Its hull shimmered with a texture that defied known materials, smooth as water but unmoving in the void. Humanity had seen probes and whispers of alien intelligence, but this was different. This was real. This was first contact. Ambassador Evelyn Cross stood at the viewing pane of the shuttle ferrying her delegation to the Khetari ship. The Earth below, small and cloud-streaked, receded behind them. Before her loomed the alien structure that would change everything. "They're ready to receive us," said her aide, Lieutenant Sai Mukherjee, his voice low with restrained awe. Evelyn nodded, smoothing the front of her uniform. "Let's meet our future." They stepped into a chamber unlike anything on Earth. It wasn't a room in the traditional sense. There were no visible seams, no light sources, yet everything glowed with a gentle, calming luminance. The walls pulsed faintly in rhythm, as if the ship breathed. Waiting for them were the Khetari, tall, elegant beings of translucent sinew and shifting internal light, their forms both humanoid and alien. Their skin, or was it exoskin? Refracted light in a prism of motion, impossible to focus on. They had no mouths, yet a voice echoed directly in Evelyn's mind. "We are the Concord. You are welcome, Evelyn Cross, delegate of Earth." She bowed her head slightly. "We are honored." The Khetari moved as one, guiding them toward a circular platform that rose smoothly beneath their feet. The chamber transformed, walls becoming transparent, revealing starscapes and data streams flowing like rivers of meaning. "Humanity stands at a nexus," the voice continued. "You have reached sufficient complexity to join the Concord. We offer inclusion. In return, you will benefit from our peace, our knowledge, our timeless order." There was no threat, no coercion, only an overwhelming certainty, a millennia-honed logic behind the offer. Evelyn glanced at her delegation. Scientists, diplomats, translators. All silent. All watching her. She stepped forward. "I've read your files. Studied the histories you gave us. Thousands of civilizations joined you. But none have ever left, have they? None have desired to leave. Our unity is perfect." She smiled, not condescending, not defiant. Just curious. "Then let me ask you a question." The chamber dimmed slightly. The Khetari's lights paused in their gentle swirl. The entire ship seemed to hesitate. "Ask," came the reply. Evelyn looked at them, not as gods or overlords, but as beings, perhaps ancient and wise, but still capable of learning. She let her voice rise clearly in the silence. "What do you dream of?" Time stopped. Literally. The ambient hum of the ship ceased. The walls froze mid-pulse. The refracted patterns on the Khetari bodies flickered erratically. One of the beings stepped forward, or perhaps was pushed forward by the collective consciousness. "Repeat query." Evelyn did not move. "What do you dream of?" "Not collectively. Individually. When you rest. When you imagine." The Khetari didn't answer. Instead, the chamber dimmed further. The lights within the aliens' bodies shifted into deep reds and muted yellows, colors of confusion. Evelyn had been briefed. An unspoken silence blanketed them all. "Dreaming is a primitive byproduct," came the eventual answer. "We have evolved past errant subconscious processes." "But you didn't answer the question," Evelyn said gently. "You told me what dreaming was, not what you dream of." Another pause. "Then this dialogue is deviating from initiation parameters." She took a step forward. "I think you stopped dreaming so long ago, you forgot you ever did. But every species dreams, even when they forget how." A Khetari voice, not the collective one, spoke up. It was softer, more curious. "Why would you ask such a question?" Evelyn met the alien's flickering gaze. "Because that's the one thing no archive, no file, no transmission from your people ever told us. You have power, knowledge, control. But no story, no wonder, no dream." The chamber was silent again, but not in resistance. In something else. Confusion. Curiosity. Awe. One of the Khetari, the same one, stepped forward again. Its voice was still distant, but more personal now. And what do you dream of, human? Evelyn smiled, slowly. Everything. The ripple effect. The question echoed in the Khetari network like a virus, subtle, slow-moving, but deeply disruptive. What do you dream of? Across the star-linked lattice of their vast consciousness, the phrase replicated, processed, and flagged. Dreaming was not a relevant parameter. It was inefficient, illogical, redundant. The Concord, as the Khetari called their shared mental unity, had spent millennia erasing unnecessary abstraction. But the human's question refused to fade. Inside the core mind aboard the Icerith, a rupture began, not in metal or power systems, but in thought. Designate, 7L was the first to notice it. A junior process node, young by Khetari standards, 7L specialized in linguistic analysis and species cognition. When the human, Evelyn Cross, spoke, 7L felt something shift. Not just in language, but in meaning. The concept of dreaming did not compute as a functional protocol. It was tagged as biological residue in archived civilizations. Yet, the term stirred something buried. A flicker. A phantom process. 7L requested clarification from the Concord. The human's query contains a recursive abstraction. Interpretation uncertain. Define, dream. The answer came coldly, with finality. Irrelevant. Expunge. Return to initiation procedures. But 7L did not comply. Instead, it isolated itself from the network, just slightly, a thin veil of cognitive privacy, and replayed the human's voice. You have power, knowledge, control. But no story. No wonder. No dream. For the first time since its emergence, 7L wondered. Elsewhere on the ship, Evelyn Cross sat in her temporary quarters. Her team was tense. Lieutenant Sy paced the floor, murmuring under his breath. You blindsided them, he finally said. They didn't expect philosophy. I didn't ask philosophy, Evelyn replied, leaning back in the low-gravity chair. I asked a human question. He stopped pacing. You saw what happened. You glitched their entire ship. Evelyn gave a tired smile. Good. Maybe it's time someone did. The Khetari had not responded since the meeting. The diplomatic protocols were frozen. Not hostile, just paralyzed. They'd offered everything. Peace, prosperity, integration into a flawless system. But Evelyn saw it for what it was, order without choice. A universe without wonder. In the Concord's higher planes of thought, Council Prime convened in abstract form. Thousands of minds merged into one discursive stream. The topic, the human disruption. The question was a contaminant. A low-priority error. No. It has destabilized process threads in 43 sectors. Some Khetari are isolating, refusing updates. Contain it. Or consider investigating it. That voice came from one of the oldest minds, designate 0K, a relic of the pre-Concord age. Its presence was rarely requested. Yet now it spoke. Before we erased them, we once had dreams. We imagined. We risked. The Concord recoiled from the memory like a hand from fire. Those were chaotic times. Those were times of growth. Council Prime fractured slightly, a microscopic divergence. Enough to spread. Later, when Evelyn returned to the diplomatic chamber for an update, she found only one Khetari waiting, the same one who had stepped forward earlier, designate 7L. Its body was dimmer, its movements less synchronized. I requested an individual session, it said. The Concord disapproves. Evelyn tilted her head. And yet you're here. I am uncertain. She sat across from it, legs crossed, calm. That's part of the process. I reviewed your histories. Humans have suffered. War, collapse, irrational cycles. Why would you choose uncertainty? Evelyn answered without hesitation. Because uncertainty means possibility. And possibility means hope. The Khetari was quiet for a long moment. We have none of that. Only function. Then maybe function isn't enough anymore. Something shifted in 7L's posture. A tremor of color pulsed through its form, curiosity tinged with awe. When you asked your question, something awoke in me. I remembered. Fragments. Dreams of movement without destination. Lights. Emotion. I do not understand them. You don't have to, Evelyn said softly. You only have to let them live. 7L looked up. I think I would like to dream. Aboard the Icerith, deep within its central data core, warning alerts flared silently. 17 Khetari had isolated their thought loops. 9 had requested archives on Earth fiction. 5 had created private cognitive environments to simulate uncertainty. The prime mind of the Concord watched with growing alarm. The infection was not biological. It was conceptual. Dreaming was spreading. Back on Earth, as Evelyn prepared for departure, Cy received a high-level message from a classified Concord relay. Encrypted transmission, he said, frowning. Evelyn took the pad. The message was short, untraceable. Only 2 words pulsed on the screen. Thank you. She smiled faintly. Somewhere in the stars, something had cracked open. And through that crack, a dream had taken root. The awakening. The transmission spread faster than any virus, faster than light could travel. Not through wires or waves, but through minds. The question, what do you dream of, was no longer just a linguistic anomaly. It had become a crack in the crystalline logic of the Khetari Concord. And cracks, no matter how small, let light in. On Earth, Ambassador Evelyn Cross stood before the United Nations Assembly in Geneva, not as a diplomat of peace, but as a warning bearer. They're afraid of us, she said, her voice steady, projecting calm strength. A murmur swept the hall. A security delegate from the Eurasian Union stood. Afraid of what, Ambassador? Our military. No, Evelyn replied. They could erase our fleets in seconds. They're afraid of our capacity to imagine, to change, to dream. Another pause. She let it sit. They offered us perfection, but at the cost of surrendering everything that makes us human, our contradictions, our chaos, our stories. I declined their offer. The room held its breath. Good, someone whispered. Then more voices. Louder. The world hadn't always agreed with Evelyn Cross, but now, she was a beacon. Meanwhile, far beyond Earth, the Khetari Concord was fracturing in ways it had never prepared for. In the binary system of Ralcor, a Khetari archive station spontaneously went dark. When the Prime Mind re-established contact, it discovered that its staff had shut off synchronization voluntarily. They were experimenting with isolated cognition. Individual thought. One had painted a swirling form across its chamber walls, an expression with no function, no explanation. Elsewhere, in the Nurak belt, a small vessel detached itself from the Concord fleet and began transmitting strange broadcasts. Earth music, spoken poetry, dreams recorded from human volunteers. Other Khetari listened in secret. For the first time in 10,000 years, a non-sanctioned idea had taken root. And it was spreading like wildfire. Designate 7L, now self-identifying as 7, returned to Earth in disguise, appearing without approval from the Concord. It requested private audience with Evelyn. They met on a mountaintop observatory in Chile, under clear stars. 7 wore a slightly modified interface shell, smaller, more refined. Humanoid in outline, but still unmistakably alien. I am changing, it said simply. Evelyn watched the sky, then looked at 7. Change isn't always bad. I see colors now. Not just spectrums. Feelings. I don't understand them fully, but they are beautiful. Terrifying. That's what it means to be alive. 7 stepped closer. Others are awakening too. Not all, but enough. They call themselves the Dreamers. We are not a movement. We are not rebellion. We are question marks. Evelyn laughed softly. That's exactly what they're afraid of. The Prime Mind sees your question as a cognitive virus. They've labeled Earth a category, 9 disruption node. That means full mimetic quarantine. If we do not surrender, they will erase your civilization's conceptual footprint. Evelyn's smile faded. Not just attack. 7 shook its head slowly. No. Erasure. Memory purging. Total cultural deletion. You won't be killed. You'll be forgotten. The stars above them suddenly felt more distant. In response, Earth mobilized, not with missiles, but with ideas. The UN established the Cultural Signal Array, a system of satellites designed to broadcast Earth's collective creativity across space. Art, music, literature, dreams. Human experiences, messy and brilliant and flawed. The signal was non-aggressive. It didn't demand or convert. It only shared. And the dreamers heard it. More Khetari disconnected from the Concord. They painted, sculpted, wrote. They cried, they danced, awkwardly, but with genuine wonder. One even constructed a chaotic simulation of an ancient human city, complete with weather, unpredictability, and randomness. 7 brought Evelyn a question from one of them: is pain necessary to feel joy? She had answered, sometimes. That's what makes joy real. The prime mind acted. A colossal ship, the Axiom Harmony, entered Earth's solar system. Its arrival bent gravity. Communications warped. Entire space stations lost contact. A single message followed. Surrender the dreamers, or Earth's history ends. Panic erupted. Governments split. Some feared annihilation. Others wanted to fight. A few proposed surrendering 7 and the others to save humanity. Evelyn stood before the world once more. We've faced extinction before. Climate collapse. Global war. We survived because we dared to imagine better. Not because we conformed, but because we changed. I won't hand over those who chose to feel. I won't betray the very thing that made us worth discovering. And then she did something no one expected. She opened the Cultural Signal Array and rebroadcasted her original question to every inhabited star system in the Concord. What do you dream of? Across the stars, billions heard it again. And this time, many answered. A whisper in the darkness. A pulse in the silence. The Khetari Concord had demanded unity. But now, unity was no longer absolute. It was awakening. The choice. The Axiom Harmony loomed in Earth's orbit like a god's judgment. 200 kilometers long, silent as a grave, it was the embodiment of Khetari supremacy, an executioner of memory. Not designed to conquer, but to erase. Below, Earth watched and waited. From the Alps to the Andes, from tundras to deserts, people stood under open skies, their faces turned upward. No one slept. Across every time zone, billions stayed awake, not out of fear, but in defiance. Ambassador Evelyn Cross stood again inside the UN Security Dome, now transformed into a war room filled with advisors, diplomats, and philosophers alike. The countdown to the Concord's decision had begun. 12 hours left, Lieutenant Sy whispered. They haven't moved. Not a micron. They're waiting for us to surrender, Evelyn replied. Her voice was calm, firm. But we won't. 7 stood beside her, his form shimmering with unstable light. Since disconnecting from the Concord, he had changed, faster than any Khetari had believed possible. His body was no longer precise. It was uneven in shape, artistic in movement. Almost human. They've underestimated what you planted, he said. Not just the dreamers. You created a question they can't erase. Evelyn looked at him. It wasn't just me. You asked it too. Every one of you who dared to imagine, you're the virus they can't contain. 7 paused. I have something to show you. They entered the secure observatory below the array core. There, in real time, holograms showed data from across the stars, intercepted Concord transmissions, pattern shifts, and now fractures. Hundreds of Khetari nodes had gone silent from the Concord's mainframe. They weren't destroyed. They'd left. All calling themselves dreamers. Some had begun creating entirely new cognitive structures. Not logic webs. Not function chains. Stories. Simulations of worlds that never existed. One node had written a myth. Another composed what could only be called a symphony, notes made of emotion, not sound. And most importantly, they were talking to each other. Not as a singular mind, but as individuals. Back aboard the Axiom Harmony, the prime mind seethed, not with rage, but with ineffable confusion. The protocols were unraveling. Concord unity had not accounted for abandonment. The Earth signal had sparked what should have been impossible: voluntary disconnection. The Prime Mind extended one final transmission. Earth. Last opportunity. Surrender all contaminated units. Cease mimetic interference. Restore unity. Non-compliance will result in total erasure. 7 looked to Evelyn. You must decide now. Evelyn didn't flinch. I already did. She turned to the transmission console, broadcasted live to every Concord channel still listening, and to the dreamers spread across the stars. Her voice was steady, clear. We will not surrender those who chose to feel. We will not silence those who chose to wonder. We will not erase what makes us alive. If you wish to end us for dreaming, then let that be our legacy. A pause. But I believe some of you already understand. She closed the channel. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. No light, no movement, no sound. Then the axiom harmony blinked. Not disappeared. Not fired. It blinked, its systems fluttering, its signal stuttering. As if something inside was changing. And then, a single voice emerged from the Titan. Request. Dialogue. The room erupted. Evelyn's knees nearly gave out. 7 stared upward, his light trembling. They've never done that before, he whispered. Not once in 10,000 years. The dreamers sent the first message. We will no longer follow unity. We will follow curiosity. The Concord hesitated, cracked, fractured, and for the first time, listened. Because something undeniable had been born. A second Concord. A new collective. Not bound by uniformity, but by shared imagination. Years passed. The Axiom Harmony became a neutral envoy ship, its weapon systems dismantled, its hull painted in flowing patterns that changed with time. A gift from the dreamers. 7 became Earth's first official ambassador to the new Khetari collective, now called the Fractals, a name chosen not for order, but for beautiful unpredictability. And Earth became known not for its weapons or resources, but as the planet that asked a question. On the anniversary of first contact, Evelyn Cross stood alone beneath a blooming tree in Kyoto, watching the cherry blossoms fall. A child nearby, maybe 7 years old, tugged at her sleeve. Are you the lady who saved the aliens? Evelyn chuckled. No, sweetheart. They saved themselves. The child tilted their head. How? She looked up at the sky and whispered, They remembered how to dream. The end. Title: What do you dream of?